Hello and welcome to SMA Talks, a monthly series where Sergeant Major of the Army Michael Grinston discusses important topics that directly impact the day-to-day business of the U.S. Army. This month, our topic is on the Monthly Solutions Summit and their mission to improve the Army by reasserting its culture of dignity, respect, and accountability. We also have a special guest, Sergeant Major Osvaldo Martinez, the People First Task Force's Sergeant Major. SMA and Sergeant Major Martinez, thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And so what are these monthly summits about?
First, this is really about solving, some of those difficult problems that we have, in the Army. It's bringing all the senior CSMs across the globe, across the Army, to come in and have a productive conversation on how to solve these difficult problems from a perspective of prevention, not reaction. So they're very detailed. Sometimes they go a little long, but that's what happens when you really try to solve a problem, come with a definitive outcome. So it's all those sergeant majors getting together to discuss difficult problems that we may have in the Army.
Yeah, and I will tell you that it's the other piece with that too is it works well because we're placing ownership on command sergeant majors around the Army, not blame, but ownership and taking their organization and saying there's an issue, this is my issue to work through, and also gives them an opportunity to learn in a collaborative environment.
Yeah, and that's another really good thing about these summits is we're not learning the same problem one installation at a time. So when I say I'm having this difficult thing and here's what I did about it, I mean, you could really share it across the whole Army as opposed to it happened here, I'm doing something about it, but nobody else knows. So that's really the joys of just learning so that when this were to come up in your post, you wouldn't have to learn that all over again the hard way.
So you can see what's effective, what's already been done to prevent something bad from happening, and then you can put it and use it at your own post, your own command.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, exactly. It's working exactly like that. An installation may have an initiative that they've been working through, and they evaluate it for a period of time, 90, 120 days, and they come back to the summit and say, yeah, this is working. And at that point, that command sergeant major at a different installation can say, I'm going to implement this here, or the SMA at the point may say, hey, we're going to implement this across the Army. So it gives us that one installation takes it, gathers the data, did it work, and then we can take it as a group and say, yeah, we're going to implement it across the Army, and it's almost instantaneous that it could happen because you have so many folks on that platform.
Yeah, it's really good. It's that you don't have to wait for an annual report or anything. You just try stuff, and then if it doesn't work, we just go, well, it's not working. So, with the Army, a lot of times we implement things and we'll find out 3 years later, well, that didn't work. But you try something at your post, camp post stations, maybe you learn from it, and you go, maybe it didn't work. But maybe, like Sergeant Major Martinez says, we like it, and then we have all those sergeant majors on there. He goes, hey, I think this is something we really need to do as an Army, and we can evaluate it, we talk about it, then maybe we do take that on. So I'm really proud of how the forum goes.
And so how did these monthly solution summits start?
Well, last year, we all got together and we said, what are the big issues that we want to solve for the Army? And we come up with pretty simple. 0 suicides, 0 sexual assault, and 0 sexual harassment in the Army. And we broke it down to little groups. Last year in a conference, we all came together as much as we could for COVID anyway. So, and we had these groups and we said, well, how are we going to do this? And we found is we couldn't just wait till next year. We couldn't wait a whole nother year. It's the same thing. We have to get together on a routine basis, not after a crisis happens. If we're really looking at prevention, we have to come together routinely so we have real-time data and we can actually make an effect in the Army and not wait 2 to 3 years. So if we only met 1 year, if we had a new idea, we'd have to wait the whole next year to come about. So we all got together and said, let's just do it once a month. And we're going to learn from it. And then if something works, we can just go, oh, that's working, let's go. And if it is not working, we're just like, just don't do that anymore. So Sergeant Major Martinez really put this together. I'm really proud of him for helping us do that. He has to bring everybody together. He's got to get this. It's a lot of hard work. So it's a monthly meeting that we actually got from our annual summit.
And I would tell you, when you think about the the ability to have 100 plus sergeant majors from across the globe, literally. I mean, you have from Korea all the way to Hawaii on one meeting. I can't even tell you how many time zones that spans. We've been able to get after some things pretty quick. You know, we can't wait a year like the SMA said. We're meeting monthly. 2 hours, a lot for those senior leaders, but it's becoming effective. We're collaborating, we're getting after some tough things that we have to overcome, and we're getting there as a result of the summit.
And I know you had said, zero suicide, zero sexual assaults, which are lofty goals, to be honest. But what are some of the other things that these summits have addressed? You said, you're getting after it. So I'm just curious, like what other things are brought up at these monthly summits?
Yeah, it's outcomes based. We actually brought in the author from one of my favorite books is called Upstream. The author is Dan Heath, and he talked about how do you actually prevent things. So you have to own it, and it's got to be outcomes based. So one of those initiatives is it's like the leader engagement tool. So at last year's summit, somebody said I'm checking the barracks, and I go, okay, so what? Who owns it, and then what are the outcomes from it? And they really took that to heart. So they said, we're going to do this barracks check, and then you put a QR code in there, and you actually scan the QR code. You have questions. You have to look at work orders. And we've seen our work orders in a barracks go up. Our barracks maintenance get better. We've seen an overlay of the crime report. So we put that in one system. So you say, okay, a leader went in the barracks, and then here's the crime. Is crime going down in those areas? Are the barracks maintenance going up? So we can really see ourselves, and that's one of the initiatives that we have. So we're actually seeing, crime go down in certain areas. We're seeing our barracks maintenance go up, and that's one of the initiatives from the Solutions Summit. So you can hear all that, but you don't say it's not directly tied to, sexual assault or suicide. So that's true prevention. Your environment matters. So when you look at it holistically, of all the things that encompass prevention, it's not just, prevention and you only focus in on one area. If you're really upstream, your environment will matter. And that's one of the theories of this. You're going to try things, you're going to own it, and it has to be outcomes based. But that is one, the leader engagement tool. We haven't gone Army-wide with this yet, so we're still working on it, but that's one of many. I don't know, Sergeant Major, you want to share one?
Yeah, so one of them that's probably 90 days into the program itself is QR codes on PCS orders to soldiers going to installations. The SMA, really, when we talk about prevention, the SMA is like, how do we get far left of issues? And a big piece is how do we integrate soldiers into a new installation? We had heard a brief from a Kate McManus who developed a program for TRADOC called Inside the Wire. And she used this program using the social media platform to teach family members about the Army while their soldier was going through basic training. So for the 70 days of basic training, there was a new post on the social media platform that taught the family member about the Army while also tracking their soldiers in basic training. And the SMA was like, well, how do we use that type of tool to integrate a brand new soldier coming out of IET status into their first duty station? So what we've done is that same concept, social media platforms at 4 Army installations, where a soldier will have a QR code in their orders, they scan it, and it takes them directly to the reception company's social media platform, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever they're using. And it allows them to get instant information of what's going on and what to expect as they arrive to that new installation. And it also gives them the feature to DM a cadre member with questions, and they're gonna get a response directly back. Once again, with the concept of prevention, how do we integrate, how do we ease that anxiety that sometimes soldiers have coming out of a basic training environment now to their first duty assignment? Is just yet another initiative that's come out of the Solutions Summit.
And is there any way, or how can soldiers help get involved in trying to come up with solutions like this?
Yeah, I really like that question, is that soldiers have an idea. Please go to your sergeant major and say, hey, I have this idea. And I'd ask the leader to listen to that. That's number one. We've got a lot of things that in the last 3 years I've been the sergeant major of the Army that somebody just sent me a note on. I'm like, sometimes I say, well, we're not going to do that. And then those other times I'll go, well, that's a really good idea. So you got to start with the idea, and don't be afraid to say, I think this is something the Army needs to do. It comes with trust. You got to trust in the leader. If they say, hey, we're not going to do that, they have all the right reasons. But bring those things to the sergeant major, just your battalion, and then the battalion sergeant major needs to get it to divisions. Now, the division sergeant majors, a lot of them are on that net, and that's how it's designed. It's designed that from bottom-up feedback from a soldier goes through all those wickets, and they say, hey, this is working in my installation, and then they propose that to us or to the Army, really. And then that's how it comes up. So it's really dependent on bottom-up feedback. So any soldier's got an idea, I really like them to get that to the sergeant major. But I think one thing we may even do is, how would we bring, soldier feedback into the forum? So I think that's a way ahead. It's something we need to look into.
So all these ideas, we figured out, how they can be brought up to reach the command sergeant majors at the summit. But how did the solutions then reach at the lowest level to those soldiers that it will affect the most?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we're still working on. We've got a lot of great NCOs out there that are doing great things, and they're really actioning all these, wonderful ideas that's happening, from the, at these senior sergeant majors. So first, say thank you to all the NCOs and everything that they're doing. But that's one of the things we're trying to work through to get out of that. Is it counseling? Just so we can say, well, we've had this idea, and here's the outcomes of it, and then how do we, get this down? What's their involvement? And there's a leader development piece in this. So are we doing our leader development? And so I really appreciate all the hard work for the Army to get us where we're at. But it all comes through these ideas, it goes up. But now it's our job is to figure out how do we make sure we get it back down and really not just hold, a sergeant first class or a staff sergeant accountable, teach them. So every aspect of the summit has a leader development portion of it. And maybe that's another reason why it goes on for a while, is that we'll bring someone in and let's talk about leader development. Because that's what we're really at. It's about not just, punishing a staff sergeant, sergeant first class, or first sergeant. It's actually developing them so that we become a better Army. I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
In developing and empowering them, we just recently, in fact, last month, summit, we spoke to a sergeant major who presented his NCOPD program, and it was very basic. Part of it was teaching young non-commissioned officers their authorities and how to do and do their jobs as well. So this is probably just another way that we can ensure that this information that we're developing gets pushed down is through NCOPD programs. Because at the end of the day, we know we need to show NCOs and teach NCOs what their roles and responsibilities are, and then allow them to do their jobs. At the end of the day, it's our non-commissioned officers on the ground who are running the Army, and we just need to be able to equip them and train them properly.
SMA and Sergeant Major Martinez, do you have any parting thoughts for our viewers?
I would say that I'm really excited about the direction that we're going with the summit. And true prevention of things is really difficult. I said that already. But I'm hopeful that one of the reasons that our suicide numbers are much lower than they are from a year ago is from this summit. We look at those every month, and we can see where an installation is rising or falling or staying even. And then we can look at it from a prevention standpoint. Are there resources you need from the Department of the Army to prevent whatever it is that's going on at your installation, and not wait for an annual report? So I'm extremely hopeful that my lofty goals will be there to zero. And I think the reason I go with zero is that I think if you don't have that goal, you won't push hard enough to get to wherever you need to go. And I think why sell yourself short? It may be lofty, and maybe we won't get there this year, but imagine the world 10 years from now, because we tried to get to zero suicide and zero sexual assault in the Army. Imagine a world that we got to that location. So we're not going to get there if we don't try. So I'm really excited about this, and I think this is going to be around for a while.
And I would tell you that the last year in doing this, really been inspired by how much our senior leaders care. from the ASLs down to every battalion sergeant major, who every day wake up with prevention on their mind now because of this summit. They're thinking, how do I avoid, how do I get far left of the issues to make sure soldiers feel secure where they work at and wanted where they're at. So it's coming out of that. It's and also impressed with how creative not just our senior leaders are and our sergeant majors out there, but the soldiers who are out there. So get your ideas to your sergeant majors. Because I have to be honest with you, I've been in the Army for just a little bit, and I think that my way works. But I also know that the young soldiers out there have some creative ideas that are probably better than my ideas.
Yeah, and this is one more final thought is it's not just a class on sexual assault or sexual harassment. This is also about lethality. If I have a more lethal squad that's better trained, that's a cohesive team, the assumption is you're going to have less of these other things that happen. So how do you get more creative with lethality that actually helps you in prevention of these things? So building that cohesive team isn't always a class. It could be going to the range. And another one of those initiatives out of this that we're looking at that we haven't got yet is going out, and you have a rifle marksmanship range. You got to do a stress shoot. There's a cognitive part of that too. So, and does that help with prevention of suicides? Because you just, you're doing your job and you feel this cohesive team, but there's a huge aspect of lethality that's tied to these summits that really comes out every month on prevention of things. So just in parting is that this is not just about building a better PowerPoint slide. This is about building more lethal, cohesive squads.
Well, SMA and Sergeant Major Martinez, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to those watching online right now. If you have any questions for the SMA or ideas for future episodes, please leave them in the comments section or use #SMA Talks on Twitter and Instagram.